Hello everyone and welcome to the coverage of Meet the Candidates for Vice President of Activities. I'm here with a lovely selection of 3 of our candidates, and we're going to get to know them and get to know a little bit about their policies, what they think, why they ran for the role, and yeah, learn a little bit more about them. So why don't we start with who you all are and why you're so keen to run for Vice President. Grab a microphone, there you go, sorry.
Cool. Yeah, my name's Zoe. I'm a 4th year biomedical sciences student, and I'm running for VP Activities because this year I've been RAG president, and there's just been a lot of things that have sort of made my life very difficult whilst running a society. And it was sort of a case of, I was just looking like, actually, I could join this role as Vice President of Activities and make some like really positive changes, and just try and make societies more smooth running. And I also know my society particularly has been like impacted by COVID quite a lot, so I sort of want to bring societies back to like what they were pre-COVID, because I kind of don't want to see any society diminish, and I know quite a lot of committees had to condense, and it's probably going to happen again this year due to a lack of engagement. And like that's sort of what my whole manifesto is about, is to just sort of try and make everyone's lives a bit easier and like be a voice for students when they need them.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm obviously running for VP Activities, and I think one of the reasons why I wanted to go for the role was, so many reasons. I think we're all part of one student body, we're all part of like this family, and I just really want to emphasize that we are all societies. We may all be representing different things, but we're all kind of in the same boat. We're all trying to achieve something, and I just want people to feel welcome. I want people to be engaging with all the societies that we have, and I just think that's really important.
Hi, I'm Corinne. I was Vice President Activities last year, and I really enjoyed it. And I felt like I just helped people a lot, and I enjoyed spending the whole year just trying to help people, make them happy, and try to help them have friends, make friends, have fun, and just have a good time. And I've had so many people tell me that they really enjoyed the year and I helped them, and I really want to do that again and just help more people and help get people in societies and make it easier for committees to run things.
Really good. So maybe Corinne, you can tee us off with this first question. What do you think right now is the biggest barrier for students joining societies, and how do you intend to tackle that?
So I think a lot of it is about knowing that things are happening. So I talk to people and they say, what, there's a beekeeping society, for example, or there's a circus society, there's this society, and they just don't know that that's happening. So a lot of it is about awareness and being involved in that, and that kind of mindset of knowing what's going on. So to deal with that, I think a big part of it is pushing bun fight and freshers, because that's when most people join societies. I've done kind of surveys and things and seen how they joined, and most of it is they meet someone at bun fight, but also trying to help get that message out throughout the year and make sure there's still loads of publicity in there. So I think a big part of publicity, then also time and having to do their degree is kind of a very huge part of it as well, because people are here to learn and have a degree and have an education. So trying to make it so that they can join societies easily, make it cheaper, make it kind of easier to kind of dip in and out of things without thinking they have to do a huge commitment if they are wanting to kind of volunteer and take part and try new things.
Sam?
How do I compete with that? I think a big thing that needs happening is making societies more accessible. I think we have all these great societies, and agreeable with Corinne, they're not. Sometimes they don't get the spotlight that they deserve. But I think another huge issue is when we have these societies, people don't know how to engage with them, or there's just these barriers that are put up. A great example is WSA. I've had loads of engagement during my campaign about everything's happening on the university campus in Highfield, but we're all relegated to the sideline. And I think if you're going to be working as a VP Activities and you're trying to represent all societies, you also have to be aware of all the campuses. You have to make sure that everyone has equal opportunities to partake in these societies.
I completely agree with what the other 2 candidates have said, but I think one of the main things that I kind of want to say is more just society exposure. Like, there are so many different sort of niche societies out there that people might not be aware of, and it's sort of like, especially if they are very small societies, they might not know how to market their society and how to actually gain that level of engagement with the student population. So one of the main things that I want to do is try and increase that engagement by doing things like actually teaching people how to market their society to specific audiences. So like, if there are people, for example, that are really interested in performing arts, they should go, we have all of these performing arts societies, go have like a little mixer or something like that, so they can actually like, you know, have a feel for the society, and it's just kind of, I do agree with the whole WSA thing and postgraduates. I think even though bun fight is one of the biggest things at the start of the year, I don't actually think people are aware that you can join societies throughout the whole year. Like, you don't just have to join them at the start of the year or the start of the semester. So I think it's literally one of my manifesto points is to create more opportunities for people to join societies outside of Freshers and Refreshers Week. So it will just give societies a chance to showcase their society more, and then for people to join, essentially. And I think that is one of the biggest barriers, is the fact that people don't join throughout the year, and they just societies limit themselves to like one specific point in the year, where actually it should be throughout the whole year.
Yeah, it's a really, really strong point that a lot of people aren't actually aware that, you can join throughout the year. One point that Sam touched on briefly was accessibility. And I think all your manifestos touch on accessibility, for students who, not only just aren't aware of societies, or, how are we helping students join societies more generally, but students who currently feel like they don't have access to certain societies, or that certain societies aren't for them. Maybe we could go to Sam first to respond to this. How do you intend to tackle that?
So I guess a big thing for me is that we have some like really great large societies, and when they host these events, you're getting 30, 40, 50 people attending. And then you've got people with anxiety who are neurodivergent, and actually big crowds, they are scary. They can be overwhelming, and it's just about helping societies run events that can be smaller scale. I recently touched on the idea of like a mental wellness scheme, where it's like partnering with the Yoga Society or the Meditation Society to kind of run these smaller sessions where the VP activities, like, we secure a little bit of funding for them so that they can run these sessions and actually help people access that would normally be put off by large crowds. And I guess it's with the back to the WSA accessibility, it is about more buses, and it's where I discovered yesterday, I came across a point that I made, and I was like, I think I've actually made one of my best points, and it wasn't even in my manifesto. And it was like, we have so many empty hall blocks or flats, and it's like, why aren't we repurposing them as like a uni hostel, where if you're from if you're in Winchester and you'll come into Southampton for an event, the last bus is at 10 o'clock, so I've got to go. And it's like, we shouldn't have to do that. Well, why don't we repurpose these halls and give people a chance to like rent them out so that they can stay for these events and they can be safe?
Either one. Flip a coin. Corin.
Yeah. So personally, I have ADHD and autism, and I'm on the committee for Neurodiversity and Disability Society. So I have a lot of experience seeing people having difficulty with accessibility, and seeing people having difficulty joining societies, finding new things. And there are lots of different ways of doing it. So one of the big kind of accessibility things is people don't know what the groups are, and they don't know how to safely join, and whether they'll have those kind of access. Well, they'll have like rooms booked with wheelchair access, or whether people will be wearing masks if they're worried about COVID and that kind of thing. So just trying to work with society to make it clear like what people are worried about and what people kind of need to do to get involved. But there's also other types of accessibility other than kind of disability and things. There's also, in terms of like postgraduates, there's been kind of surveys on postgraduates that say that the best ways to get the things they want to do are things with other postgraduates, because undergrads are all immature little children, and they want to meet with people who are more similar to themselves. So getting societies and making societies aware that if they run events specifically for postgraduates, that postgraduates are more likely to come along, and they'll kind of feel more welcome and that kind of thing. So in some ways, having an event for specific people, even though it's kind of inaccessible because it's excluding the other people, it makes it more accessible to do multiple events for different people. And one society that I see is very good at doing this is LGBTQ plus society. So throughout the pandemic and still doing now, they have a very big mixture of both in-person events and online events, and kind of a huge Discord server where they're doing things very regularly online. So the people who either are in WSA or are currently sick and can't come out and meet people, or away on a gap year kind of thingy, doing a year in industry, they can all join in, and they can all join in without too much effort and find the activities. But also the in-person things are amazing too, and I want to kind of encourage people to do those as well. Yeah.
And pass back to Zoe.
I think in terms of accessibility, I think one of the main things that I think sabbatical officers in general need to focus on is just communication, because there may be groups of students that have problems that actually I don't face, and I can't speak on people's behalf and be like, we need to change this, this and this, because actually I don't know whether or not that will have a positive or a negative impact. So I think we kind of need to speak to these communities and actually see what they want and make those changes on their behalf. Like, we are essentially a voice for the students. So if there's accessibility issues, whether or it be wheelchair usage, whether or not it be just anxiety, mental health problems, I feel like if anyone should have like a feedback system of where like they can actually speak to us, and we can be like, right, okay, what changes can we make to positively impact everyone and all of the societies in general. So yeah, but what everyone else said, especially like WSA, I do agree, like they get left out of literally everything. And same with postgraduates. I don't think people realise that postgraduates actually work all year round, and actually they might not have the time and the energy to sit there and like come to Freshers Week, come to Bun Fight, where like, so they actually need those opportunities, and they outside of Freshers Week, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We've sort of alluded to throughout all this a lot of stuff to do with COVID and how COVID's impacted things, and obviously had a massive impact on societies and how we've been able to do things, not just in person, but also kind of retention of students and membership and things. So what are your plans to help as we now sort of move into a more post-COVID kind of period to help societies that are really struggling with low membership or lack of budget, or kind of who've lost their way a little bit because we've had 2 years of...
So my manifesto mainly is around trying to increase society engagement. So I've got both to increase engagement university-wide by doing things such as marketing workshops, utilising promo online and in person. I think that's one thing to try and increase student engagement to help with recruitment throughout the whole year. Same with my point on increasing opportunities to join outside of freshers. I think that's another point to try and increase recruitment. But things like financially, it's just I do want to create a situation where actually we can create alternative funding outside of grant rounds, because actually it might get to a point where actually they have a really good idea to try and recruit more members, to try and get back on track, to try and run a committee that they might not be able to do. A second point that I want to do is to actually create a page on SUSU which advertises all available committee roles after AGMs and EGMs, because I don't think people realise that actually if they have an interest in a society and they've missed that AGM, for example, or it's a fresher who wants to get more involved straight off the bat, then actually they should have that opportunity to do so, and they could contact the society and be like, can you tell me more about what this role entails and how I can get involved, because actually it seems like a bit of me. And yeah, so I feel like there are so many ways that we can attempt to increase engagement, because it is a case of, it does break my heart a little bit to see some societies like diminishing because of COVID, and I just don't want to see that happen. So like, yeah, I think all of us probably feel the same way about that. Like, yeah, so.
And I think, first of all, I need to say that Ella, who's current VP Activities, has done like a really great job at this. She's kind of been in a liminal state where it's kind of, it's not COVID anymore. Well, it is COVID, but it's not kind of in the heat of it, trying to return to in-person, but then we're still very much feeling the effects of it. And I just think looking at what Ella's done, looking at what's worked and kind of rolling with that, because I don't want to upheave anything that seems to be working. She tried, we did the, she did the blindly, is it blindly dating? Yeah, speed mating, sorry. She did the speed mating for the societies, and turnout wasn't massive, but do you know, for the Edge, the society that I'm the editor of, actually we managed to pull in quite a few people because it was people that were really interested in the societies that she was bringing up in this event. And I think looking at one of my points is, and it's quite similar to, sorry, I've flustered. Similar to Zoe's point, is an emergency fund for societies. I've heard these stories about societies that have like really struggled financially, and they've had to end up waiting for grant rounds, which necessarily aren't there to kind of provide the backbone of a struggling society. It's for single events, things that you're trying to like bring to your society almost. And I think there needs to be kind of this financial support. There needs to be a reliance that things can go wrong and it's okay. And I think that's sometimes what feels a little bit missed, is that there's no real sense of trial and error. It's you have to get it perfect straight away. And I want societies to know that moving forward from COVID is like, you can struggle, you can have these wobbles, a bit like the Edge, our whole committee's third year practically. And it's about kind of like giving people the funds, giving people the support, and just letting societies know that like we're there for them and we are going to represent them as best as we can.
Yeah, so again, I agree with all of them, and everyone's making great points. And I think everyone would be making really great vice president activities. So for me personally, I was vice president activities last year during the heart of the pandemic, so I saw all of these things happening, and I tried to help as much as I could. And I think I believe that I made a good difference, and I've been told by lots of people that I helped a lot. But it's impossible to help fully, and this year, kind of following the pandemic, most of the societies have much smaller committees and much smaller engagement than they would normally, because the first years last year didn't get to join societies as much as they could, and it's just very difficult. So a big thing I want to do is try to like keep that understanding of how to get people involved. So because I've been here involved in societies since 2016, I've had so much experience kind of seeing how things work, how everything kind of happens, especially in kind of pre-COVID times. And I want to make sure that knowledge is retained and kind of stays within the societies, because a lot of it gets lost as people graduate. And so the people running societies now would have never seen what societies run like in normal times, and especially next year once the kind of current third years graduate. So one thing I want to do is run lots of workshops with societies, just explaining all the things you can do to help get membership and get engagement and get more people involved. So recently, I started a beekeeping course, and that's been Beekeeping Society doesn't do anything between kind of October and kind of January, because bees hibernate over winter. So I had difficulty getting it started again, but I've managed to get that started despite it being February, and I've gotten about 80 people to sign up to the beekeeping course and kind of actively get involved in beekeeping. Partially because beekeeping sounds really cool, but I've used the experience of knowing things like you can use the society mailing list, you can message other societies to share things, you can email faculty, people who work like in whatever group you want to, and ask them to email people. And all of these kind of things will help get the message further. And mostly people are genuinely excited to help and want people to try new things. So try writing for magazines and try volunteering and try whatever it is that you want to kind of promote. So just trying to make sure these things stay, and run workshops on how to do all these kinds of things, and help other societies to run the workshops themselves and share their knowledge as well with other groups of students.
There's quite a lot you said there, Corin, about workshops and giving committees information. And obviously, committees are the backbone of societies. They're who put the events on there. They're who make things happen. So how are you going to help committees specifically to keep their societies running, to maintain them, to make them even better than they can be?
So yeah, as I was saying, kind of workshops and just talking with committees about how they can do different things and what kind of support they can get. So in SUSU, there's a big training period at the start when SAB starts. So that's actually quite an important time for committees to kind of start planning things. And so I want to use that time to help committees to make sure that they go into the new year understanding what's going on. So a lot of it is making sure that kind of handover happens well and they have all this knowledge. I feel like I've kind of answered it a lot in my last point of just doing workshops with people. But yeah, mostly just talking with people and communicating and asking what their problems are, I think.
Sam?
It kind of goes back to what Corin has already said, actually. Communication is key. But I think it's just about kind of being there and kind of listening to what societies need and working with societies. A big thing with committees is that we have so many of these roles sometimes and they're quite diverse, and then suddenly we don't have enough members, we don't have the committee positions not going to be filled. So as Zoe pointed out, it starts to cause this kind of condensing effect. And I don't feel that society should have to do that. Society shouldn't have to be trying to, someone in a committee position shouldn't have to be trying to fulfill 4 roles. It's something that I've seen a lot of societies struggle with, and it's kind of working with them to to optimize what they're doing, to think about, okay, what positions, what do we need as key in order to keep running. At the moment, we in theatre group society that I'm part of, when we had an issue where we didn't have enough members at the start of the year to fulfill committee positions, and so we had this issue where we needed to fill the 3 main roles, which was the president, the treasurer, and the secretary. And that brought about a lot of stress because people didn't want the treasurer role, which is the role that I've carried on through to the 2nd year. And it's just about looking at past committees and working with the members that are passing through and being like, okay, well, why did this role appeal to you? How can we make it so that it's less work? Because the thing is I feel like at the moment, especially when COVID hit, is that committee pressure is just building and building, and people are so stressed, and it kind of defeats the object. I look at societies as a place where actually I can take a break from university, and yet then when you have all this stress, it's suddenly well, actually, what's more stressful, the committee I'm on or my university course? And I don't want that to be the case. I just want to work with societies and kind of really provide them the support. If I got the position, it would be my role to chip into committees. I don't mind sat in a committee meeting trying to suggest things or trying to help, because I think that's important. I would just want to represent everyone.
I think when you said trying to fulfill 4 committee positions, I felt that deep in my soul. Yeah, I completely agree. My whole motto for just not even for vice president activities, even just as RAG president this year, I've actually had to have conversations with people who have been on 3 different committees, and they've gone, I'm finding this so stressful, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm not doing my degree. And I'm just being on a committee should be fun. It's a voluntary role that you do. You should do it because you enjoy it. And actually, if you're not having fun on a committee, then I want to know why. I want to know why that's not the case, and I want to do something to change that, because actually, it is really, really stressful. And me being president of RAG this year, I've had so many cases where I've just felt burnt out, not just because of uni, but because of RAG. And it's I love RAG so much. It's literally my only personality trait at points. But it should be a really rewarding process, not a process that makes me feel like I don't want to do it anymore, because actually I am so passionate about voluntary work. And I feel it is a case of this year with committees, we need to actually chip in. We need to be ideas of what makes you feel stressed or anything like that. And that would be my main thing that I would do. And one of my manifesto points is to have termly one-to-ones with committees and actually be what do you need from me? What can I do to make your life better? What can I do to make your life less stressful? and make what you're doing within your society just fun, because that's what I think societies and the union in general should be about. It should just be you have a break from your university work and you just have a bit of fun, and you know. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah, it should be fun. That's why everyone gets involved in committees, isn't it? So we talked a lot about how you intend to help societies that already exist and the ones that have had to struggle through COVID. But now that we're all back in person and we're all, hopefully going to stay that way, there's going to be people who want to start setting up their own new societies. So do you have any plans in particular for how you want to encourage that and make that process as easy as possible?
Yeah, so this was actually asked as a question, I think, to all of us. And you can check that out on our SUSU manifesto pages. But I think just a long story short would kind of just be, if they need a guide throughout all of it, then that's what we're here to do. We're here to be like, right, you need to do this, this and this. And it means like you need to form a committee. You need to find a purpose for your society. And that would be what we would be here to do. And it's also a case of like all the affiliation processes. I think it's a bit of a hassle for a society to become affiliated. So not a lot do. I think I've noticed a few like startup societies that haven't become affiliated just because it is such a big effort to do. For example, like there's only one affiliation period throughout the whole year, and the union expects you to be running for 2 terms before you can become affiliated. I think sometimes if a society shows a lot of progression, then within a short period of time, then actually why should they have to wait nearly a year to become affiliated when actually they're already up and running? They have members, they have a committee. I also feel like it's just a bit frustrating if, like, let's say they become a start up a new society. It could be a fresher or someone that starts up in March. They have to wait until September. They have to wait until the summer to become affiliated, and it's just they have to therefore go a whole year without any funding. It's just a bit annoying. But I feel like for any startup societies, I think it comes down to specifics. Like, I can't give like a really, really general approach apart from I would just be here to support you. I think it depends on what the society is and what they need. But yeah, I think,
Sam, go for it.
Okay, so I think there's 2 things here. The first is, as Zoe pointed out, is we're kind of almost expecting societies that aren't affiliated to be running as affiliated societies from the get-go. So it's like, well, we won't really SUSU doesn't give you the platform to kind of bring in those members. It doesn't give you the funding, but then they're turning around and being like, but you should be functioning as a proper society by now. And it's kind of like, well, hang on a minute. That it doesn't fit right. I think if you're running for affiliation and SUSU is aware of it, I think whoever's VP activities needs to be there to support, to liaise. I think that's really, really important. And I think another really important point is the process needs to be simpler. It needs to be clearer on who we chat to. So at the moment, it's kind of on step 1 of the affiliation 3-step plan is you need to contact one of these members of staff, but then it's 5 members of staff. And it's like, well, is there not a particular person? And actually, I think a really good person to contact in the first protocol is your VP activities, because they're someone that is going to fight your case. And that's something I want to do. And I think a big thing is if the SUSU affiliation application is unsuccessful, I don't think my role, I don't think that's where I stop. I don't go, sorry, right, let's move on. I think it would be then, right, let's get this application. Let's look at what people have said, why there's been a denial of affiliation, and kind of working with that society to kind of get that recognition they deserve. It's just about constantly being there and kind of always reflecting. I think there's always times when you need to kind of sit back, look at what you've done and go, okay, this didn't work. Right, I'm going to try this. And working with these societies is really important to learn to do that.
Yeah, these are all good points. I felt like everyone's agreeing with everyone pretty much. But if you're wanting to start a society, to anyone watching, the kind of best first steps to do are to just make a kind of Facebook, Instagram, Discord kind of page and those kinds of things, and just kind of just start running events and do things. So I've done this kind of a few times, and I kind of want to strongly encourage this kind of behavior and just try to help people realize that they don't need to be like officially affiliated to do things, so that they do just feel empowered to just say like, okay, we're going to start Owl Society and going to look at pictures of owls and be like, yeah, that's a nice owl. And you can just do that. Just make a page, call it OwlSoc, let everyone join in. Yeah, so there's lots of like weird random societies that aren't official societies yet. But I'd also, in the case of Owl Society, I probably wouldn't actually affiliate them, just because there's also already a Wildlife Society, so I talk with them and get them to work with Wildlife Society and kind of do things together, probably. Just because there's not an infinite amount of funding, so creating infinite societies is a problem, because then there's less money per each society. So there is actually a problem of kind of societies like that and just affiliating everyone. So last year I was wanting to affiliate everyone and be like, yeah, more societies, hooray. But kind of looking through the processes and things like that, I realized actually a lot of these could work better just by working together with other societies and helping other societies to be bigger. So there are lots of societies where they're quite small and they would like more members. And joining us together, like Owl Society and Wildlife Society, would make Wildlife Society even bigger and be able to run more events and specific events going out to look at owls and that kind of stuff, and also get the support of the rest of Wildlife Society, for example. And last year, as Vice President Activities, there were societies that I spoke to that weren't affiliated yet. So one that I remember well is Once a Month Society. So they're kind of raising money for the homeless period and just homeless people having periods to make sure that they aren't suffering too much. And before they're affiliated, I was working with them to have things like donation bins for period products and kind of charity drive thingies to kind of get more money and get more people involved. So I was talking with them quite often, just trying to help them run things and help them kind of be a society. And when they did affiliate, we managed to affiliate them. And in terms of the kind of, they need to be running for 2 terms thing, it's mostly to make sure that they're kind of actually a society, because if you're not a society and relying on SUSU money to become one, then that means there's less money for other people. So the reason you have the kind of 2-term waiting period is so that you have the chance to kind of run without being given loads of money, because there isn't loads of money to give out. So I want to help the societies we currently have as well as the new societies. And there are lots of ways of helping societies without money or with small bits of money, which we can get from other pots for like volunteering, engagement things, for those kinds of things where we can actually help unaffiliated societies kind of to run events. So I can't remember what the rest of my point was. But yeah, I think I've said most things.
That's great. We've got time for one last question, which I'm going to make as broad and open as possible. And it's going to be simply just that if you're elected, what is the one burning issue that the first time you walk through the office door and sit down, you will be in to fix? And I'm going to give that to Sam first to tee off.
Okay. Oh, that was really loud. Sorry. That's such a hard one to come to first. I'm trying to think of my key points. I think for me, the first thing my main address will be kind of making societies as easily accessible for everyone. And I know I've brought it up previously, but I just don't think societies that are running that aren't able for everyone to be a part of is what any VP activities should be thinking about. I just want anyone that if you want to join a society, then I don't want there to be a barrier. And it would be looking at all these societies, looking at what are the interpreted barriers, why aren't people joining this society for whatever reason, and kind of going, right, I'm going to work with you and I'm going to address that issue.
Okay. Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm going to do. I think it's literally my third manifesto point. I am making a booking system for societies to book out union spaces, because it is the bane of my life. I hate it so much that I have to go through like 10 different people, and it's just the most frustrating thing in the world. Like, for example, I literally had to cancel a charity event last week because we were double booked in the Cube, and it's like, actually that shouldn't have happened. Like, why has that happened? It's because there was a miscommunication within the activities office, which is fine, happens, but actually if there was a nice, clear, concise online booking system, how easy would everyone's life be, where they can just see what space is available and go ahead and book? And don't get me wrong, it's a system that would be like moderated and things like that, but I've had so many people say to me that this has been a problem for them, and actually, like, it shouldn't be. It's something that's so easy, and societies are entitled to use SUSU space for any event that they want to run. And it's like, actually, what just not having a booking system just makes it so much difficult, because actually just like, you've got this, oh, can't I, do I have the space, don't I have the space? And it's just like trying to fight other societies for them to run event. It's just so frustrating, and that is going to be the first thing I do. As the second I walk through that door, I'd be like, right, booking system, we're on it, we're doing it, I don't care what any of you say. It's happening.
Both great points. So for me personally, I don't have a specific thing that I would change immediately, because when I want things changed, I usually email people who are currently in power. So I mostly just email the people who are currently doing things for things I want changed immediately. So there would be, so for the first thing I would do would really be trying to kind of deal with the website personally, and to try to make it so that by the time that Freshers happens, because Freshers is such an important time for getting people involved in things, even though I'd like people to get involved the rest of the years, throughout the year. But Freshers is actually super important because they've not yet made those friends and not yet become busy. So just to make sure that by the time Freshers comes out, that people are already the website is already ready for people to join in with things. So it's easier to find societies, easier to find things to get involved with. So people might look for like Scouting Society and not realize it's within the social change movement, or look for Circus Society and not realize you have to look within the performing arts group, because it's not super clear how to find things. So just trying to make the website clearer and more accessible, and just easier to be like, I want this thing, oh, there it is, without having to kind of search and that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you all so much for coming. It's been a really good conversation. It's been really great to hear everything you had to say and hear all your points. Best of luck in the elections, and thank you very much for watching Meet the Candidates with the candidates for Vice President of Activities. I've been Peter Kirk for Surge Media. Thank you.